My younger brother Daniel's words cut through the hushed murmurs of the funeral reception like a knife. The room went still, every gaze fixed on us as he stood in his tailored suit, jabbing a finger in my direction, with our grandmother's casket resting just 20 feet away. I'm Jessica Morgan, 40 years old, having driven 8 hours to attend the funeral of my grandmother, who raised me after my parents passed when I was 12. My auburn hair was tied back in a plain bun, and I wore the only black dress I owned, slightly worn from use. The faint scar above my left eyebrow, a memento from Afghanistan, glinted faintly as I faced my brother with calm composure. "Jessica can't even afford proper funeral clothes," Daniel went on, his voice rising. "Look at her bargain bin dress, worn-out shoes. Grandmother always fretted over you, wondering where she failed you." The gathered relatives nodded, their expressions a mix of sympathy and discomfort. My Aunt Patricia muttered to her husband about poor Jessica and her lack of success. These were people I'd grown up with, who'd seen me struggle after our parents' death, who'd watched me juggle 3 jobs to get through community college before I vanished from their lives 15 years ago. "What do you even do for a living?" Daniel pressed, relishing the crowd's attention. "Mall cop, traffic warden, Aunt Pat says you haven't even had a phone in years." I stood quietly, hands folded, watching my brother dismantle the fragile thread of our family tie in front of those who once mattered to us. The familiar burden of duty settled on me, the same weight I'd carried since I was 12, when I vowed to our dying mother I'd protect Daniel. "The real shame," Daniel's voice trembled with feigned emotion, "is that grandmother left her entire estate to both of us, split evenly. Half to me," he said, "someone who's built a life, a family, a reputation. And the other half to," he waved dismissively at me, "whatever this is." The lawyer, Mr. Henderson, fidgeted in his corner seat. A gentle man in his 70s, he'd managed our family's legal matters for years. I saw him glance at his watch, clearly wishing this painful scene would end. "I'll challenge the will, naturally," Daniel declared. "No one in their right mind would leave a fortune to someone who can't even buy decent clothes. When the court sees Jessica's situation, they'll know grandmother wasn't thinking straight in her final days." Murmurs of support spread through the room. My cousin Sarah, who'd always envied grandmother's affection for me as a child, spoke up. "It does feel unjust, Daniel. You've worked so hard, built a thriving business. Jessica's just, well, she's been gone so long, we don't even know what's become of her." "Exactly," Daniel said, gaining momentum. "For all we know, she's living out of her car. Look at her. When's the last time anyone here heard from Jessica? When's the last time she added anything to this family?" I thought of the past 15 years. The heft of the rucksack I carried through Afghanistan's mountains. The sleepless nights in forward operating bases, drafting letters to Daniel I never mailed, trying to explain why I had to leave, why I couldn't share where I was or what I did. "She probably doesn't even have a fixed address," Aunt Patricia added. "How can someone inherit property when they don't own any themselves?" The room hummed with agreement. I saw the triumph in Daniel's eyes as his calculated performance played out. This wasn't impromptu. He'd orchestrated this, turning our family against me before I even arrived. "I think we all know what's right here," Daniel continued. "I'll ensure grandmother's legacy goes to someone who can uphold it, who can maintain the family home, who has the means and respect to carry our name forward." Mr. Henderson cleared his throat softly. "Actually, if I may—" "Not now, Henderson," Daniel snapped. "This is a family matter." "But sir, I really think—" "I said not now," Daniel's face reddened. "Can't you see we're handling a family crisis?" The room fell silent again. I felt the weight of their judgment, their pity, their certainty that I was exactly what Daniel claimed. A failure, a letdown, a warning tale. Then came the sound that changed everything. The sharp, steady click of military dress shoes on the funeral home's marble floor. All eyes turned to the entrance as 3 figures in immaculate dress uniforms stepped into the room. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Hayes led them, her silver oak leaves shining on her shoulders. Behind her were Major David Fletcher and Captain Amanda Reynolds, both moving with the disciplined precision of career officers. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Colonel Hayes said, snapping to attention with a crisp salute. "We apologize for our late arrival. The flight from Washington was delayed." I returned the salute with practiced ease, my posture straightening as 15 years of instinct kicked in. "At ease, Colonel. Thank you for coming." The silence was deafening. I heard Daniel's sharp gasp, saw Aunt Patricia's face pale. "Ma'am," Major Fletcher stepped forward, his voice clear in the stunned quiet. "General Morrison asked me to convey his condolences and inform you that the memorial service is set for tomorrow at Arlington National Cemetery, should you wish to attend." "General Morrison," Daniel's voice was a faint whisper. Captain Reynolds spoke, her tone respectful but curious as she scanned the room. "Colonel Morgan, we didn't expect to find you at a civilian event. We were told this was a family funeral." "It is," I said softly. "This is my grandmother's funeral. These are my relatives." The officers exchanged looks, realizing the situation. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes's jaw tightened slightly. "Your relatives?" Major Fletcher's voice held a hint of disbelief as he glanced at my silent family. "The same relatives who were just." "Yes," I said simply. "Major, could you provide my family some context about my current role?" Major Fletcher stood taller. "Colonel Jessica Morgan serves as Deputy Commander of Joint Special Operations Command. She holds the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, and the Defense Superior Service Medal. She's completed 3 combat tours in Afghanistan and 2 in Iraq, and she oversees special operations across 4 geographic commands." The room remained frozen in shocked silence. "Additionally," Captain Reynolds added, "Colonel Morgan was recently selected for promotion to Brigadier General. Her confirmation hearing is next month." I looked at my family, people who'd known me since childhood, who'd watched me grow, who'd just spent 20 minutes convincing themselves I was a failure. "Daniel," I said quietly, "you asked what I do for work." My brother's mouth opened and shut without a sound. "I serve my country," I continued. "For the last 15 years, I've held roles classified beyond your clearance, which is why I couldn't tell you where I was or what I was doing. I've missed birthdays, holidays, and family events because I was either in combat zones or working in facilities not listed on any public record." Lieutenant Colonel Hayes stepped forward. "If I may, Colonel Morgan, your service record is exceptional. You're one of only 3 women at your level in Special Operations Command." I nodded my thanks, then faced my family. "The reason I don't have a permanent phone number is because I move between secure locations. The reason I don't own a home is because I've lived on military bases for 15 years. The reason my dress is plain is because I've learned that material things don't matter when you're carrying a wounded soldier to a helicopter or comforting a dying Marine who wants to tell his mother he loves her." Aunt Patricia was ghostly white. "Jessica, we had no idea." "No," I said, my voice steady. "You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed, judged, and condemned without considering there might be more to my story." Daniel found his voice. "But I called your old apartment years ago. They said you'd moved, left no address." "Because I was deployed to Afghanistan," I replied. "Spending 14 months training local forces and managing operations I still can't discuss in detail." The weight of 15 years of sacrifice, of missed family moments, of choosing duty over comfort, hung over the room. "You want to contest grandmother's will?" I asked Daniel. "You think I don't deserve her legacy because I can't afford fancy clothes?" I reached into my modest black purse and pulled out a folded document. "This is my financial disclosure form, required for my security clearance. Want to know what a colonel with 15 years of service, combat pay, and special assignments has saved?" Daniel's face drained of color. "The house grandmother left us," I continued. "I could buy a dozen like it without a loan, but money was never the point, was it? This was about respect, about family, about giving the benefit of the doubt." I scanned the room, meeting the eyes of my relatives. I've spent 15 years serving with people who take a bullet for me, and I for them, without hesitation. People who trust my judgment, who value my worth not by my clothes or bank account, but by my actions and character. The silence stretched until Mr. Henderson spoke. "If I may," he said gently, "there's one more document relevant to this." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a sealed envelope. "Your grandmother asked me to read this only if her will's intent was questioned." He unfolded a letter in her familiar handwriting. "To my family," he read, "some of you may doubt my choice to leave half my estate to Jessica. You might think she abandoned us, chose something else over family." Daniel sank into a chair, his earlier bravado gone. "But Jessica never left us," Mr. Henderson continued. "She called me every week for 15 years, whenever she could, payphones in airports, brief calls from secure sites, even from field hospitals where she hid her injuries to spare me worry. Tears welled in several eyes. She sent photos, not of herself, but of the soldiers she served with, the people she protected, the children in villages she helped. She spoke of letters she wrote to families of fallen soldiers, of nightmares that haunted her, of the burden of leadership and the cost of duty. Mr. Henderson's voice softened. Jessica gave up a personal life, comfort, safety, and a chance at a normal family to serve something greater. She is the finest person I've known, and I'm proud she carries our family name into battle and brings it home with honor. The room was silent save for soft sobs. If anyone questions this choice, if anyone thinks Jessica doesn't deserve her share, they never knew her. And if they didn't know her, it's because they never tried. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes, Major Fletcher, and Captain Reynolds stood respectfully throughout the reading, their faces showing admiration for both my service and my grandmother's words. When Mr. Henderson finished, I looked at Daniel, now weeping silently, head in his hands. "Daniel," I said softly, "I never stopped loving you. I never stopped being your sister. I just became something more." He looked up, tears streaming. "Jessica, I'm so sorry, so sorry." "I know," I said, "but sorry doesn't erase the words. It doesn't undo the assumptions. It doesn't change that when I needed my family to trust me, to believe in me, you chose to tear me down." I turned to the room. "I return to duty next week. My lawyers will handle the estate. And for what it's worth, I forgive you all. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or pretending this didn't happen." Lieutenant Colonel Hayes stepped forward. "Colonel Morgan, we should head back to base. You have a briefing with the Joint Chiefs tomorrow." I nodded and faced my family one last time. Grandmother taught me that true strength isn't about how hard you strike, but how much you can endure and keep going. I've carried that through 15 years of war zones, through nights I wasn't sure I'd survive, through choices that kept others' children safe while I missed my family's milestones. Daniel stood slowly. "Jessica, is there any way we can rebuild trust?" "I don't know," I said. "Trust is earned through actions over time, not words, and it's shattered in moments like this." I looked at the faces I'd known since childhood who'd raised me, loved me, and failed to understand me. But I'll tell you what I told my soldiers in Afghanistan. Every day is a chance to choose who you want to be. You can choose to assume the worst and tear each other down, or to lift each other up and believe the best until proven otherwise. I walked toward the door with my fellow officers, then paused. "By the way, Daniel, grandmother's house, I'm donating it to a foundation that provides housing for homeless veterans. Too many who served their country are sleeping on the streets for me to care about property values." As we stepped into the cool evening, Major Fletcher walked beside me. "Ma'am, if I may, you handled that with incredible poise." "Poise has nothing to do with it, Major," I said. "That was 15 years of learning you can't control others' opinions of you. You can only control your own." Captain Reynolds looked thoughtful. "Colonel, what will you do about your family ties moving forward?" "The same as always, Captain," I said. "I'll serve with honor, lead with integrity, and trust that those who matter will see me for who I am, not who they assume me to be." As we drove away, I caught my reflection in the window. 40 years old, scarred but unbroken, in a simple black dress carrying 15 years of honor and service. My grandmother was right about strength. It wasn't about striking hard, but enduring and choosing compassion over cruelty, understanding over judgment, service over self. Behind us, my family was learning a lesson many never grasp. Assumptions reveal more about the one making them than the one they're made about, and true strength often wears modest clothes and speaks with quiet dignity. I didn't need their approval to know my worth. I'd earned it in Afghanistan's mountains, Iraq's deserts, with the soldiers I led, the families I protected, and the flag I served for 15 years. But I'd hoped, perhaps naively, that those who'd known me longest would know me best. Instead, they taught me that the deepest betrayal often comes not from enemies who never cared, but from family who stopped trying to understand. The vehicle moved into the night, carrying me back to a world where my value was measured not by my clothes or wealth, but by my word and my commitment to something greater than myself. In that world, I was exactly who I was meant to be.